All right, so real quick demonstration based off of some of the resources that Kyle gave us here. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the template that you can find on the website. Let's see, home, probably be in downloads. There we are. UNL-VSOA laser cut template, that looks about right. Okay. And there's an example here with some shapes and some labels. Those are some ridiculously large labels. And I'm not sure. Oh, it looks like things are turned to white layers. Material, border, margin. All right, so these cut and score items, I'm just going to go ahead and close or delete those because I don't want those. Oh, I see. I'm going to change a few things here. I'm going to change the labels to a different color so you can see them. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll change these all to black, and that way they show up a little better. All right. Material border. Okay. They're set to white because you don't want to cut them, but I'll just give you this. So you can see again this sort of sheet. It's the top left is at the 0, 0 point in the XY coordinate. Right? There is this already this sort of cut and score information. I'm just going to select those objects and delete them because they look really kind of goofy to me. So I'll go ahead and delete those. Not the layer. I'm going to select the objects on the layer. There we go, and delete them. Right. Okay. So you can see that there's some instructions here and some labels. Let me just turn the sound off on my phone so that doesn't distract us or bug us. All right, so this is what we're dealing with. You can see that there's a cut layer and a score layer. Cut's already set to red, score's already cut to blue. Not sure what's going on outside my office, but it sounds like there's a thunderstorm outside or something. I know that can't be the case. I'm gonna go ahead and minimize this. Now I have another version of Rhino open. So I'm going to go ahead and open up what was I doing before? Oh, I don't think I actually saved that. Let me just quickly generate a file for you guys. So let's see, units, inches, right? Again, just going through the process. I'll go ahead and open up Grasshopper, and then I'll bake a shell geometry. Then I'll run the script, and then I'll show you some of these new tricks that we can use to close some things up, turn some things on the right layers, import them into the template, right? Make sure that we have no duplicates, etc. So let's see. Open document, recent files. Here we go. Shell surface classifications. Again, this is just a rehash of things that we've done before. I'll just pick this one. That's fine. I don't care. All right, here we are. Okay, I can go ahead and close that. I've baked this in. I'm gonna pull this off over here, away from this XY area, right? Because I know that it's gonna lay the ribs out in this sort of XY, positive X, positive Y quadrant over here where you can see my cursor. So I'm gonna move this out of the way so those things don't collide and clash. They don't try to occupy the same space. All right, so now it's time to run the Rhino script. I have set my units. I baked the shell geometry in. Tools, Rhino script, edit. All right, this will bring up the script editor. And I'm going to go ahead and it actually just has the last thing I ran. So I'll go ahead and hit the green arrow. Again, you just want to make sure that you note these, what you're using. I'm going to use, let's say, 15 tiles in one direction, 15 tiles in the other direction, maybe 1/4 of an inch, 10, 30, and then that material thickness of 0.030. And watch Rhino do all my work for me, which is, it's always kind of pleasant when that can happen. All right. We can close the script editor now. I don't need it. You can see that it generated the ribs 3-dimensionally here, but each one is laid out nice and even for me. All right. So with that said, I don't know who keeps text. Sorry, I think it shows up in my email too when people text me, or sorry, on my laptop. That's really annoying. Anyway, so anyway, I'm going to go to the top view, tools. I'm just going to turn this grid off so I can see things a little easier. Turn that grid off. I hate that grid. It's so visually distracting. All right, so this is where I think most of you are, right? When it comes to preparing your ribs for laser cutting, right? And so let's take a look at a closer look at what happened here, right? Depending on your version of Rhino, right? I might have a text item here in curves. I might have a text item here that's sort of shaded in, right? We're going to type those in and be very precise about their size and make them really small, and then put them on their own layer, right? So right now, what it did is it gave us a cut layer and a score layer. And then it gave us U strip and V strip layers, right? And so we need to sort of clean some things up here, right? All right, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these marks. In other words, another term for labeling, right? So in this case, it's telling me both the direction this is going in. So in this case, it's latitude, ribs, U, right? And then it gives them a number for their order. So the first one is 0, second one is 1, it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 14 in this case, because I did 15 divisions, right? All right. So one of the things I'm going to do is replace this text item with something that's going to be scored lightly with the laser cutter into my material. So as I cut out each piece, each one will have a little label scored onto it, so I know which one is which. And that's really important because if you think about this, I did 15 divisions, 16 times 16, that's 232. I can't remember the square of 16 offhand. But that's a lot of different ribs, and they're all different. They're all different. And so you don't want to have a big jigsaw puzzle on your hands. You want to know which one's which. All right. And so labeling them becomes really important. So I'm actually going to go to the text tool here in Rhino. It looks like this gigantic T, and do a text object. It's going to bring up a box here. Maybe. There we are. And here I can set a font, right? So I can set my typeface. This is spelled out in one of the last pages that we had, right? With some instructions. You want to use this SLF RHN architect font that's built into Rhino 7, okay? What that does is it's a single stroke font. In other words, it doesn't give you a thick outline that sort of gives you a bunch of duplicate curves, right? It just gives you, like, it's for engraving. It just gives you, like, a V just becomes one stroke, right? A 0 becomes one stroke, not an inside and an outside, just one, right? And so again, this is all about making this as easy and quick for you as possible, right? So now I'll just sort of, again, handcraft this label. I'll just say U0. I want to make sure this is in curves. Group output, not necessarily. I don't really care. I want to set that height to something small, like maybe 1/8 of an inch, right? And then I'll say okay, right? And now I can place this object. I'm just going to place it as something that gets scored, let's say right there, right? Now I can select and delete that old label away, right? Now I have just a little label right there, right? Maybe 1/8 inch is a little large, actually. I want to make sure that these things will all fit in my rib system. So just go back, do this one more time here. Maybe I'll make this, let's say a 1/16 of an inch, so 0.0625, right? Oh, what happened there? 0.0625. There. Just make this nice little small label, right? I've set the score label, or sorry, the score layer to be my active layer. So as I start to do this, they're put on that green layer, right? Okay. What did Kyle say? That score layer actually needs to be what color? Someone shout it.
Blue.
Blue, that's right. So if I go to RGB values, I can just go to RGB sliders. I can turn the blue all the way up and turn the other things all the way down, right? 00255 RGB, right? And hit OK. Now that score layer is set exactly the way I want it. That cut layer, just double click it, or just double check it, but it looks like it's already set to red. All right. And indeed, 25500, right? So that's how RGB values work, right? You have 0 to 255 for red, green, and blue. You start to find different values along that continuum of things, right? So if you want pure red, 25500. All right. Hit OK. We're all Jake there. All right. A couple of other things you'll notice, right? One is that this rib is joined together, right? But it's set to a U strip or a V strip layer. And so we want to go ahead and select those and also turn those and put them on the cut layer, right? There we are. So I might go back through and again do this. Now, one thing I mentioned, right, is that, you know, I mentioned this curve Boolean tool. And if I sent this this file just like this, where each rib is prepared just like this, right? It might like laser cut some of these boxes and just keep moving around the bed, right? And start cutting out boxes and start cutting out some of the ribs. And you don't want the rib to be cut out and then accidentally slide or move before all the notches are cut out, right? So one of the things you can do to counteract that, right? I'm just going to turn off the score layer for a moment, right? I'm just going to look at the rib with the notches, right? One tool you can use is called curve Boolean. And I'll just type that in the command line, curve Boolean, B-O-O-L-E-A-N. Again, I'm recording this, so you can always refer back to this if you need to. All right, what that does is it allows us to sort of, you know, do a sort of a quick trim where we can combine regions. We can subtract overlapping shapes from each other, combine them, join them, union them, etc. Right? So I have delete input none, combine unions yes, delete input all. I'm going to go ahead and change those parameters. Combine regions yes, output curves, simplify curves yes. So I'm just going to make sure that these all say the same thing, right, in the command line. Again, you see where my cursor is, select curves. It's telling you exactly what it wants, and then also gives you some of these parameters you can change, right? So I want to make sure that delete input is set to all, combine regions yes, output curves, simplify curves, yeah. All right, if one of those say something different, you can click on them and then change the option. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and select this first rib and the notches. All right, so I've selected all the curves. I'm going to right click and it says click inside the regions to keep. So I'm just going to click inside of this one. You can see now, right, it's sort of looking at all these and where they overlap. And if I just click inside the rib, it's going to subtract the notches from the rib automatically. And I just right click or hit enter. Now it's trimmed all of that out for me. And it's also joined it all together for me. It's like this magic, it's like this easy button that's built into Rhino. It's really nice. So again, I'll go to the next rib and select the rib and notches, right click, click inside the regions to keep. So it should keep all the same settings you had before. Click in here, right click to end the command. Right, okay. Now right click to repeat the last command, just like you can do in CAD and Rhino, right? Do the next one, right click, click inside, right click. Oh yeah, that's so nice, right? Now, when I turn on my score lines, right, I have less information. And so now what it'll do is it'll do all the scoring, all the blue stuff, and then at the very end, it'll go back through and do all the red through cutting for me, right? And then after I'm done, I can pick all these things up, right? All right, so let's pretend for just a moment that I've done all of these labels, and I'll get all of these labels out of the way for a moment, time being. Annoyingly, these labels are not joined together. Ugh. Nasty. All right. So you just want to be careful there. Make sure you get all that stuff out, right? Another thing I can do that Kyle mentioned is just try to select any duplicate items I have, right? Now, if you think about the laser cutter, it's like a printer, except instead of spraying ink through the print head, it's zapping things with a laser beam, right? And so it's literally going to go through every line and curve that you've put on this that you send it with the printer driver. And so if you have duplicate curves, let's say you have the same line but twice, it's going to cut it twice, right? It's going to go over it. It's going to go over it again, right? You want to try to avoid that both for time and then also for scorching and things like that. All right, so the way you can do that is you can try to select any duplicate items you have, and that command is SELDUP. Short for select duplicate, cell dupe, right? If you hit that, in my case, it said no duplicates found, nothing to add to the selection. And I say, that's great. I just love to hear that because that means I have no duplicate items and I'm ready to roll. Now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and select these things carefully. And I just want to sort of try to nest them together. Oh, wait, sorry, never mind. I'll save that step for one more thing here. I'm just going to go ahead and try to, I wish I could get rid of this, all these labels all at once a little easier. But it's up to you whether you want to keep this blue zigzag. But that scoring sometimes will help make your material just a little more flexible. And that comes in handy when you're trying to sort of fit things together, right? So that's why that's there. Right? So again, I could go through. I don't know why some of these are curves and some of them are letter items. That's really odd to me, but bizarre. Anyway, the text items are really easy to sort of select and get rid of. It's when it's been exploded to curves, it's kind of a weird thing here. I don't know why it's doing that. It has something to do with the Rhino script and the methods it's using, and the fact that that script was developed like back in Rhino 4. Now we're in Rhino 7. So I know exactly in theory what the problem is, but I don't have time to go through and try to rewrite some things yet for that. Just go ahead and, anyway, I'm just sort of going through and clean this thing up, right? But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this and we'll bring it into the template file that's provided, right? And then we'll start to arrange things and nest things together to try to maximize the yield that we get out of our material, try to minimize waste, and where we do have offcuts, try to make them useful offcuts. You know, so we have some leftovers, maybe you can use them later for another model or at another time, right? Just want to get rid of some of this awful text curves. Anyway, I'll pretend that those aren't there. I'll try to anyway. I'm just going to quickly turn off score and I'll just do the curve Boolean one last time here. So I have all of my ribs right here. I'm going to say curve Boolean. And I'll just select all of these ribs and notches that I haven't done yet, all at once, right? Right click when I'm done selecting them. Now I'll just click onto each inside region I want to keep. I'll just go through and do this in one fell swoop here. Sound effects are always optional. I find it's always satisfying when you delete things to make a noise, to make it sound like they're exploding. But that's just me and I'm weird, so there you have it. All right, so let's see here. Here's where you awkwardly watch me just click 19 times around the screen. I could zoom, yeah, maybe I'll zoom out a little more. I just want to make sure I'm clicking in the right region here, so I don't have to redo this command again. Yikes. But you can see that there is an economy of scale here with this tool. It's not going to take forever. In fact, it's going to help you out timing wise, both during this process and then also when it comes to laser cutting. Come on, Rhino. There we go. I don't know why it. Click, click, and click. Now right click and I'm done. And boom. All right. So back to having these scores. Oh, I know what I can do. Let's just get rid of these. Turn off the cuts real quick, and I can turn off. I can select the rest of these. Ugh. It just makes me want to barf every time I see them. So sorry, but I gotta get rid of that. Yikes. You know, another thing I'm going to do, right? If I'm going to leave these zigzags, I'm going to make sure that they're all joined together. Again, I don't want to do a zag over here and then do one over here. Every time that the laser cutter jogs without cutting, you're adding time to the equation, and that adds up to money. It doesn't seem like it'd be much time, but it adds up over time, right? You know, when you have lots and lots and lots of little cuts and you have to keep moving the laser cutter around, right? It does add time. It starts to snowball. Okay. So again, I'm just going to turn off everything except for the scores. I'll go ahead and select those and I'll just hit the join button. You can type in join, or you can just hit the join command, right? All right. Now I can turn all these things on, and there's my laser cut information, right? I'm gonna go ahead and save this. Save. I'll put it on a desktop. Sure, why not? Laser cutting demo. All right, I can go ahead and close this file. I'm going to open up my other file now with the template for laser cutting. Maybe. Hopefully. What's going on here, Windows? You know, half my day is spent waiting on my computer to do things for me. All right, there we go. Da-da-da-da-da-da. All right, now suddenly Windows is responsive. All right, well, so a couple of things here. One is I'm going to go to File. Now again, double check this, but I want to say, since it's a template, that they've already looked at this, right? You want to make sure that this is in inches as well, and it sure is. So hit cancel, right? So File, Import. I can import a file that I've made before. Let's go to Desktop. Where was it? Did I save it in a different place? Maybe I saved it in a different desktop. Right? No, laser cutting demo. There it is. Okay. For some reason I was looking for a Grasshopper file. All right. So there we have it. Here's the file that we just imported in, right? It's a copy of that information now in this file. So I can go ahead and delete the three-dimensional stuff. I don't need that, right? And you know, I can basically, let's see here. We have the cut and score. Oh, perfect. So it's already on the cut and score layers, right? Oh yeah, look at that score. And that one's on cut. Perfection, right? Okay, so now all it's a matter of is sort of selecting these all at once, right? Making sure that you get everything, keep everything aligned, right? All that cutting information in the ribs. And it's about composing it inside this shape, right? Inside the margins, and trying to sort of maximize, right? All the sort of goofy offcuts, minimize all the goofy offcuts, maximize the amount of material that you're utilizing, right? So these things can get a lot closer to each other. In fact, they can almost touch if you want. And sort of, again, make sure that you're saving yourself some money and material. There's an ecological and an economic argument here to sort of lay these things out a little nicer, right? And so, you know, making sure I'm moving any labels that I put on here, as well as the cut information, as well as any other score information, all at the same time, right? Those all have to align because they're all going to be printed out in the same place here. So this is like the laser cutting bed. This is your material. Let's say it's 18 by 32, right? And so now you're going to be able to sort of nest these things together. And this will be like the sort of print, what gets printed to the laser cutter. All right. So that's the process that Kyle sort of talked about, and that you've already started, but from start to finish here. Right. So it might take me a little while. Right. The trade-off was that, you know, it beats the hell out of trying to like cut all these out by hand with an X-Acto knife, doesn't it? Right. I mean, I remember those days. It's a real pain. You couldn't do a bunch of double curve stuff back then. Right. You're constrained to right angles and straight lines. If you want to make a curve, you had to use a French curve and approximate the spline, right? And so on and on, right? I might, you know, then again try to, you know, I can always, again, if I as long as I select everything that's supposed to be on that rib together, I can always rotate these and begin to sort of try to make them nest a little nicer, right? Try to fit them onto the paper the way I need to, etc., right? But essentially, you're going to try to line all these up. If you can get all of these on one sheet, that's great, right? If you have to put a couple on a second sheet, that's fine too. But then know that, you know, leave yourself some room then to put all those components that we start to lay out flat next week, also on that second and maybe even a third sheet. Okay, so it really kind of depends at this stage on you know, thickness and how well you nest things together, how much material you actually need. All right, how much chipboard you'll need. Okay. All right. I'll go ahead and save that. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Yeah, sure, save, whatever. Come on. No, I accidentally hit it. Yes, whatever. Yeah, sure. Sorry, my computer, it's like, are you sure you want to do this? It's like, well, you made me click 13 different things.